Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I welcome you to this morning's session, which is on health, safety, and environment. So, what comes to mind when we talk about health, safety, and environment? Most people think about the oil and gas. So, most people think about oil and gas. Some think about the health sector. Some think about just the environment, but there's more to health, safety, and environment. It is shocking that we have some other hazards related to health, safety, and environment that is more than what we think about. So, introduction. Environment, health, and safety, as it is called by some other profession, is a discipline and specialty that studies and implements practical aspects of environmental protection and safety at work. In simple terms, it is what organizations must do to make sure that their activities do not cause harm to anyone. What does it say? It says that when you're at work, be ensured that you're safe. I know for every organization they have their health safety unit. They might not call it health safety unit, but somehow there is somebody in charge of telling you, okay, this is where I know it's done during the orientation, this is where your fire extinguisher is. When there is fire outbreak, this is where you should, this is the muster point, this is the exit, and all that. These are the things you should know as a staff of an organization. And looking at health, safety, and environment, it has like two different points or different points of view. From a health safety standpoint, it involves creating organized efforts and procedures for identifying workplace hazards and in reducing accident and exposure to harmful situations and substances. It also includes training of personnel in accident prevention, accident responses, emergency preparedness, and use of protective clothing and equipment. So for organizations that are more prone to hazards, like the oil and gas, you see that this section of the organization is more pronounced, unlike us. But even for us, there are so many hazards we are exposed to that we do not see or notice as hazards. So from environmental point, it involves creating a systematic approach to complying with environmental regulations, such as managing waste, air emission, or the way to helping sites reduce the company's carbon footprints. So the environment, you as an employee of an organization, how do you keep your workspace? You as a neighbor at home, how do you dispose your waste? Some persons wait for, now that we are in the rainy season, some persons wait for rain to fall so they can dispose their waste. This doesn't help our environment and it doesn't help our health as well. So these are the nomenclatures different organizations use for their health, safety, and environment units. Know that whenever you see occupational health and safety, we are still talking about health, safety, and environment. Work health and safety is still about health, safety, and environment. Health, safety, and environment, yes. Quality, health, safety, and environment. Health, safety, security, and environment. Quality, health, safety, security, and environment. Know that all of these are still referring to health, safety, and environment. It's just it depends on the kind of sector or organization that determines the kind of nomenclature that is used. But whichever way, know that they are still referring to health, safety, and environment. So what are the types of hazards? Because in all of this, it talks about hazards. The first one is biological hazards. We're talking about poor sanitation, housekeeping practices, contact with body fluids, inadequate maintained air conditioning and heating system. We talk about chemical hazards. A chemical in form of solid, liquid, vapor, mist, or film that can cause harm to a body through injection, absorption, inhalation, or injection. Ergonomic hazard, muscle strains or sprains, inadequate lighting, poor station design. Then physical, excessive energy related to falling, flying objects, extreme pressure, temperatures, electric current, radiation, noise. Then psychosocial, I know some people will be wondering, what's this doing in hazard? It's shocking and interesting rather to know that harassment, discrimination, work-related stress and personal issues, they are also hazards, and they are psychosocial hazards. So type of hazards still continues. Physical hazards. What exactly is physical hazards? This is most common type of workplace hazards, like our kind of work environment. This is more prone to us. An example of the physical hazard includes trips, falls, slips, exposure to loud noise, working from height, vibrations, unguarded machinery. How do you keep your workplace? There was a time I think my waste basket was kept beside my drawer, and I noticed that each time I want to sit or stand, my legs kept eating it. So I had to, position it well in such a way that I don't get to eat my legs on it anymore. So that's the kind of physical hazard. Or if your drawer is placed in such a way that whenever people pass your workstation, it gets to eat their legs, it could cause any form of hazards, health hazards. You should position it well in such a way that it doesn't eat either you or any other person passing through your workstation. Then ergonomic hazard. Every occupation places certain strains on workers' body. Ergonomic hazards occur as a result of physical factors that can harm the musculoskeletal system. This type of hazard is not easily identified. Example of this is poor lighting, repetition motion, awkward movement, and poor posture. For example, they say that it's not good to sit for so hours in a day. For us here, we sit and some people just sit and face their computers like 5 hours. It's not healthy. You should stand at some point, move around, just stroll, and then you come back. You see that some people, especially the tall ones, some of them, before you know it, their backs are bent. It's a very wrong posture. You see some persons, because of the nature of their work, some tailors, because they bend their neck, some of them feel this pain at their back. That's called the ergonomic hazard. Then chemical hazards. Chemical hazards are present anytime workers are exposed to chemical substance. Example include cleaning solutions, solvent, vapor fumes, carbon dioxide, and other gases. Yes, we might say that we don't work in plastic industries, we don't work in oil and gas, but even in our homes, I have this chemical, one of the program assistants bought for me. It cleans, but then it's so conk that if you don't cover your nose when you're using it, it can choke you. So those kind of solvents, when you use them at home, always ensure that you cover your nose and you protect yourself from chemical hazards. Then biological hazards. Health professionals are at most risk for this type of hazards. Talking about the doctors, the lab scientists, the medical lab scientists, the pharmacists, most especially the doctors, the nurses, and the medical lab scientists. We've seen of persons who were infected. In fact, it happens most times in Nigeria because we don't have right wears, protective wears for our medical personnel. You see them getting infected with all kinds of disease through body fluids, insect bites, bacteria, or viruses. Then psychosocial hazards. Do you know that bullying and harassment in the workplace is a health and safety issue? You know, when I was doing my research on this topic and I got to this place and I'm like, really? We've been affecting so many people's health and safety unknowingly, and really ignorance is not an excuse. It's an health and safety issue, and it can lead to health problems and give rise to further safety issues. It is also an industrial relations matter and may have legal consequences, meaning that whoever is harassed, the harassee, if there's an English word like that, and the bully can get you, you know, arrested for harassment. So, but for this session, we are going to really narrow down to the one that really, you know, affect us for our kind of workplace. So what bullying and harassment look like? Because some persons do not know and some persons know and they do it deliberately. Repeated hurtful remarks or attacks, or making fun of your work or you as a person, including your family, sex, sexuality, gender, identity, race or culture, education or economic background. Some persons frown at all this, especially when, and it's so common in our kind of society. This person is saying Omo Igbo, the other person is saying don't mind that stupid Yoruba girl, those are also, they don't have brains. It's common, and you see people respond to things like this differently. That's why you see in the north, even for religion, somebody will say don't do ablution in front of my shop, the next thing her head is off her neck. So we should be very careful in some of these things, especially when you are in an environment that you are not too familiar with. You're with new people, you need to learn their culture and how they relate to avoid bullying or harassing anybody. So sexual harassment, particularly stuff like unwelcome touching, sexual explicit comments, requests that make you uncomfortable. You know, if you are not comfortable hugging someone, say no, I'm not comfortable hugging you. Be nice, and nice to say no, and be fair enough to say no. And there are some unhealthy comments passed to you, just tell the person, please, I wouldn't appreciate that next time. Be nice to say no to comments that you don't really appreciate. Then excluding you or stopping you from working with people or taking part in activity that relates to you when you belong to a team and somebody is deliberately, you know, excluding you to be part of that activity. This is an harassment. Playing mind games, ganging up on you, or other types of psychosocial harassment. Then the fifth is intimidation, making you feel less important and undervalued. You know, this has happened a lot of times where some people who have a particular background feel more important than the other person, and it has been managed so many times. It's been managed. What bullying and harassment look like? Okay, this is a continuation. Giving you pointless tasks, giving you impossible jobs, deliberately changing your work hours, telling you to work late, deliberately holding back information you need for getting your work done. Somebody wants you to, you know, giving you a task, he knows that without some certain information, some prerequisite information, you would be unable to do it. He wants you to fail so that you can have a point. Pushing, shoving, stripping, grabbing you. I'm sure this hasn't happened in MSH, and I don't think it will ever happen. Attacking or threatening with equipment, knives, gun. This will also, I don't think it will happen because we have a structure. Initiation or hazing, where you are made to do humiliating or inappropriate things. Also for a kind of workplace, I don't think it will happen. So what are the effects of bullying and harassment? You are bullied at work. If you're bullied at work, you might be less active or successful. Be less confident in your work. The work that you would normally do and be confident in it, you see that you begin to doubt yourself. Can I really do it? Am I really doing it well? Because of loss of confidence, you feel scared. You know, you have your life outside the work is affected. You can't read even when you're outside the office. You can't study. You know, want to stay away from work. You're always like, oh my God, I'm going to the office again. You're not happy coming to work. You feel like you can't trust your employer and the people you work with. You lack confidence and happiness about yourself and your work. You have physical signs of stress like headache, backache and sleeplessness. You can't sleep, you know, headache. Of course, when you can't sleep, you might have headache. Because, so what is bullying not? Bully isn't, some workers think that they are being bullied when they are being performance managed at work. Now, when you're not doing what you should do, or when you're not meeting up, that's not, and your supervisor is trying to discipline you, that is not bullying. You should be able to, you know, draw the line between bullying and when it's not bullying. Then your manager can make decision about poor performance, taking disciplinary action and control the work, the way you work, the way the work is carried out rather. This management action, if carried out in a reasonable way, it's not bullying. So when there is a development plan, a performance development plan, and they give you plans that, okay, this is what you do, and if you don't do this, this is a disciplinary action, that is not bullying, because it is to help you do your work better. So how to tackle bullying and harassment? Know that it starts with you. So whenever you're bullied or harassed, you need to check yourself. What are you not doing right? Some people have a high voice notes, and so when they talk, some persons feel they are shouting on them, and then they feel like, how can you be shouting on me? It's rude. So you need to really check yourself when you notice bullying or harassment. Is it me? What am I doing well? What's the feedback? What feedback are you getting? So it starts with you. Model and support ethical and respectful behavior in your everyday interaction. Ensure that you respect people. Be ethical. Very, very important. Communicate this to the person bullying and harassing you. There are times people do things ignorantly. They don't even know you're being hurt. So it's important that you let them know that, I'm sorry, what you said the other time didn't really go well with me. Please don't let it repeat itself, in a very polite way. And if it's unintentional, the person says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. You know, it was just on a lighter note. Then check what the policy of your organization says about bullying and harassment, then act on it with guidance from HR. You know, after doing all of those and there's no improvement, you know, it's important that you take the legal action, which is going to the HR to make complaints. So these are some of workplace potential hazards. Imagine this particular office. I'm going to ask us, how many types of hazard can we see here?
I can see 20. I can see physical hazard.
Okay. From where?
From the man hanging clock.
Okay.
Up there.
And what was he using? What was he climbing? What was he rather climbing on?
He's climbing on a chair rather than a ladder.
No, it's not just climbing on the chair.
And there are some boxes.
Boxes, exactly.
Okay, on top of the chair.
Physical hazard. Okay.
Yes.
What other kind of hazards can we see here?
See the man sitting on the computer since morning.
Economic
He
hazard.
refused to come and follow us and discuss politics.
You mean this man?
He's looking at
Did you see under his table?
That's a biological
Hazard. Exactly.
Yeah.
The other physical hazard is that wire that is running across the entire spread of the office.
This is connected to this man's computer and is running all the way.
And there's a sexual hazard there.
Also, that lady talking wrong.
Wearing mini skirt and climbing something.
Exactly. And this man is here sitting down.
Could you imagine?
Although it's forming not to look at her.
He's busy. He's very busy.
It's busy. You know, you can imagine an office like this. In this same office, they have a cooker.
Yeah.
There's
In
also
the same
somebody.
office, they have a fridge.
Yeah, there's
You
also
know, some
somebody.
offices are like this.
See that lady too, making love gesture. I don't know. See now, yes.
Oh, okay.
To who?
So this watering.
Okay, and the
distracted you exactly. The wire will surely follow because his legs are already hanging in it.
What women they do.
Is it all about women or the man that can't
It's
take
part of the
consent?
hazard.
So this is another workplace hazard. You see this the drawer heater lengths. You see these wires. You see the waste basket.
That one, the witch is already penning himself.
You see this one.
Yeah, he's already penning him.
So these are the things we should watch out for.
That guy is shouting on the
That guy
phone.
shouting on the girl.
Yeah.
When he shouts on the phone,
And
the
the
two
book
are
is already
falling.
falling on somebody's
So,
head there.
so how would you put, start
Any job
your
you do.
So really, these are some of the workplace hazards that exist in some offices. Look at home hazards.
It's serious.
Do you know these things happen every day? And
My children.
even when parents see them, they kind of, oh no, they just pick it up and take it away. Look at these children. Another home hazard. Forming engineer, senior sister with a younger brother. You should be very careful. When you're done using all of this, take them away. Take them away. The children don't understand the effect of these things. When you're done using them, please always take them away. When there is water on the floor, always ensure you clean. It's very important. So safety signs, safety symbols and color codes. Some of these things, when we see them outside, we do not really understand what they mean, and we are just wondering. Some of them we have letterings like this is what this is, but some of them is just a code, and if you don't know, you don't know them. So whenever you see a blue,
Computer hazard.
I don't think it's on the way. Put it.
so whenever you see a blue and white sign, a blue circle containing a white image, denoting that a specific course of action must be taken, meaning that maybe before you take that step, you need to bend over. Be sure that whenever you see any sign, color code, be sure that you're sure of what that thing is saying before you go in. Or whenever you see this red and white sign, black, red and white, know that it's prohibition sign, like we have it here. That's round red is prohibition sign. So be careful of what it's saying. Whenever you have this yellow sign, yellow, black and white, this one is hazard. So be careful to ask, what kind of hazard is this talking about? So whenever you have white and green, a green rectangle or square with symbol providing information about the safe condition. Whenever you have this, it's talking about white and red like this, it's talking about fire equipment sign, and any other sign. This is an example of what it is. For example, that yellow is talking about heavy lifting objects, so you should be careful. This is talking about you wearing gloves before doing that task. As a mandatory things you must do, blue and white. Then the red and white rectangle or square is talking about fire, or where the fire extinguisher is. The green and white rectangle is talking about safety equipment signs, and of course this one is talking about no smoking. You've seen that cigarette is in that red and white circle, is a prohibition sign, meaning no smoking. Of course, you see our Nigerian brothers still smoking in the filling station where they have said no smoking. Some of them even smoke while they fill their generator. It's very dangerous. So types of fire and fire and extinguisher required. Let me inform you that it's not any type of fire extinguisher you can use on any type of fire. You need to be sure of what caused the fire before you apply the fire extinguisher. Let's see for A, ordinary combustibles, wood, paper, rubber, fabrics and plastics. Water, the type of fire extinguisher, you can use water, dry powder or aloe rather. And the identification is A. So whenever it's wood, it's rubber, you can use either water, dry powder or aloe. The identification on that fire extinguisher will be A. For fire caused by flammable liquids, gasoline, talking about your fuel and all that, you use carbon dioxide, dry powder, aloe, and the sign on that is identification is red. And the third one is fire involving electrical equipment. carbon dioxide dry powder alone. If you use water for that one, the person will be electrocuted. That is it. It's that bad. Combustible metals or combustible metal alloys, you use a special agent, and it's usually in yellow. Then fire and cooking appliances that involves combustibles, cooking media, vegetable or animal oils or fat. That sign for that is dark black color. So this is another one.
Sorry, you didn't tell us what to use in that one.
Is that it has a special one,
okay.
And the color code is black.
Okay.
Yeah, it's black. So this is another one. Water, combustible material. You don't use water for flammable liquids. You don't use water for gases. You don't use water for metals. You don't use water for electrical equipment. You don't use water for deep fat fryer. For foam, this is the extinguisher. So for foam fire extinguisher, you can use for this and for this kind of fire. For dry powder, we see that we can use dry powder for almost all of them except for this. For gas, you can only use for only flammable liquids and for electrical equipment. And for wet chemicals, only for combustibles and for deep fat fryers. So we should be careful when there is a fire outbreak. Check before you take the steps so that you won't be the next victim. It's very important that you check. And we can see that dry powder is almost used, and that's the type we have in our office here. So also, this is also saying the same thing, kind of fire, and this is what it looks like.
It's not correct.
See that color? I know you can relate with it looking at it. And this is also blue. I want to break that. Also want to check. You can relate with these two and what we have on the board. Water, powder, foam is yellow, carbon dioxide is white. The black carbon dioxide, the white is foam, the yellow is net chemical. This is written like this, the water is written like this, and the powder is in blue, like that blue we have here. How to use the fire extinguisher? The first thing is to pull out this pin. Pull out this pin. We can't do that here because
There's no fire.
so pull out the pin. Then you aim. After aiming, you press the two edges together, and then the fourth one is applied. It's also written on the fire extinguisher cylinder. Just make sure you read. Make sure you read before you apply. If fire has happened, it has happened. There's no rush, so you don't cause more, and make sure you're sure of what you want to do. It's very, very important. So some general HSE tips. Keep every corner clean, organized, and clutter-free. Make sure that your workstation is clean. Don't make people have accidents because they just pass through your workstation. It's either they are eating their legs, stepping on pins, you should watch out for all these things. Use mats on slippery floors. This applies to our homes most times. Most of our bathrooms have tiles. Some of our houses are tiles. Always ensure that you have mats that avoids you sleeping. Store combustible materials properly. Some people keep their fuel in the generator house. That is a time bomb. Yes, it's a time bomb. They shouldn't be together. I've had an experience with it before, twice. First in my family house in Lagos, and second here in Abuja. Here in Abuja, my husband on the gen and it exploded, and we had these 25 liters of fuel beside it. It was just God daddy because I couldn't explain what happened. So don't keep your fuel close to your generator or in the generator house. They should be kept separately. So always keep combustible materials properly. Ensure proper training when handling equipment or machinery. When you're in a new environment, you got a new job, you bought a new machine, be careful to read the manual. Don't just jump into using it. Be careful to read the manual, get proper training if you need to be trained on using it before you go ahead using it. Then provide clothes appropriate for tasks. If you are in a construction company, you know that you should have your helmet so that when things fall, you don't get injured. If you work in a health facility or in a lab, you should know that you wear your gloves, very important. Cover your nose guard, very important. Clearly labeled, designated as hazardous zones. It's very important that people are aware of things that are dangerous or hazardous to their health. And give regular breaks. It's important that we rest. Even when you walk, it's important that you rest so that the people that didn't know when you were working won't help you spend the money. It's important that you take time, get regular breaks, take your vacation and rest. If you're not there, the work will get done. That's the truth. So prevent falling objects. Always ensure that things are properly arranged to prevent them from falling on either you, your children, or colleagues. Eliminate fire hazard. Avoid keeping fuel close to generator. I've said that. Please ensure you insure your very important properties. Some people see it as waste of money to insure their cars. If you can afford it, it's important. It's important. Ensure your very important properties. So these are some of the things I mentioned earlier. This is a construction. This is a construction company. See what he's wearing. You can imagine this guy putting on a suit and a tie in a construction company. This is the mats I was talking about on wet floor. This floor is tiled. You need something like this. We have so many of them in the market. Buy them at home to avoid falls. And these are medical personnel. You see them well covered. The bacteria that wants to infect this one will do a lot of job. So, yeah, there's no way. You are well covered and well protected. So safety isn't expensive, it is just priceless. You might think that buying fire extinguisher is expensive. God forbid, a lady lost 2 of her children out of 3, somebody that is done having children, to fire. I also had a fire incident in my house sometimes back. And see my hand, I had some burns. In fact, I had to pass through the fire. And when I passed through, I went to the mirror. Is my eye still there? I was so afraid. My body was just peppering me. If I had fire extinguisher, that wouldn't have happened. It was after that somebody gave me a blanket, fire extinguisher blanket. So it's important that we keep some of these things. We keep those rules so that we are safe and our family is safe. Thank you. So questions, comments, you want to share experience, it's time.
Alright. So can we give Mariam some feedback and share experiences, just whatever?
Thank you, Mariam, for a wonderful presentation. You really hit the nail on the head. You're trying to bring out the points that are very pertinent to health safety and environment. Yeah, so most times we underrate the effect most of these things might have on us when we don't take precautions towards that. I remember back home in Makodi, there's this thing that always happens where we have there are like 3 phases at the transformer and our own keeps going off. So I just had that idea that once it goes off, I know where to go and touch that the light on our own line will come back. So I was always doing it. I would just go get a dry stick and because it's that mesh wire, they just bend it together and fix it. So once it starts burning and it's almost cutting off, the light will go, will trip off. So once it touches again, it will come back. So that day, first day I went, I reported, it didn't come. Second day I reported, it didn't come. The third day I said, I beg, this thing is easy now, I can do it. Cut wire, spin it together, use a dry stick to put there. And I bet you when those things got in contact with that wire that I used, I knew that I couldn't sit for 15 minutes. That's the bang from the transformer, the light that came from the transformer. For 15 minutes I couldn't see. So most times we feel that we can handle most of this thing on our own. So it's best to always get electricians, especially when it has to do with issues like that, to come and rectify it. But that thing really, I tell you, I was seeing stars for 15 minutes. I was just seeing stars like this. And
that kind of slap you see when they slap you.
So, but you see me shouting, I was like, Jesus, I was like, because I took myself to that place. So, I mean, there are things that we can avoid, so by just calling persons who are.
Yeah. Thank you, Edward. One more thing I wanted to say is that they also expire. I didn't know these things expire until I think it was that car I wanted to use. We just buy and keep for road safety most times. Thank God for education. Most people buy and keep for road safety. Do you have an exhibition? You point at it, but they expire. And that day we were to use it for somebody's car and it was dragged. So for this one, the date is there. It's January 2018 to December. So this one is going to last a year, and after a year it expires. So whenever you buy your fire extinguisher, always check the expiry date so that you're sure that you no longer have. No, it's there, but it's not there. Very important. Check the expiry.
Can you refill this one?
Yes.
This one's are refillable.
That's what this one was 2016, 2016, this is 2017, now 2018. Refillable. But those other smaller ones in the car, they dry up. Can't refill them.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I think that's a nice one. When I was explaining the transformer dealt with him, the first thing that came to my mind, so he still have time to check time, how many minutes the thing do. That's by the way. Very interesting one. Thank God I'm here. There's some things you never know that they relate to. That kind of a thing. When you were presenting it, the thing now entered to gender, say, so it's a very interesting thing, and I think we can see some of the things you enumerated. Some of them we can't really run away from it. They happen here, and we know that it happens, but we may be the perpetrators, or we may be the survivors. But at least now we know that at least we have small rights. So even if we don't want to go to the police, we can go to Mariam.
I'm not the HSP for that person.
I pay professional advice. So very frankly, I think it's a very important topic. Very, very important. Most times, small things you learn here may come handy some days. You understand? So it's a very nice one. I appreciate it.
It is not like seatbelt saved my life after God. If I was not wearing safety belt, I would have been dead. There's no way the car can survive. So that's something we can always do every morning. Seat belt, just wear it. Even if the car is rickety, just say, I beg, make I use my seat belt. It personally saved my own life. So, and so these are the things and then once people don't talk about sleep driving, they think it's only drunk driving. We get tired. Anytime we start imagining sleep, please park for 2 minutes. Don't think you're just imagining it. Just park for 2 minutes. You'll be shocked. I've parked several times. The person who taught me how to drive never told me I could sleep while driving. But it's a real thing. People do sleep. It's just that most times they don't come to tell the story. So, and that's what happened to me. I slept off on the wheels. And it's also, we walk and think we are Supermen.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Such an awesome presentation, and I hope we can take safety seriously.
Thank you, Benjamin. To also mention that we have a mustard point. I know some of us do not know in MSH. It's the ground floor. We have like a box of glass. That's where the key to that door is. So when there is fire outbreak, we don't pray for it, but things happen. Just know that the mustard point is there. Just go down, get the key. If you are the first person, get the key. There's an iron with which you can break the glass. Get the key, open the door, and every other person moves.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, I forget to share one experience. You know, when we're talking about this fire, it looks like it's very far from us. There was one time there's a electric spark here. You remember?
Yeah, it was
right in this our
this workstation.
Not why. People ran away.
Yeah.
And what even got me annoyed that is that I was calling the electrician. He was around. He said, "Why should I be shouting because of this one?" You remember that? I was so much annoyed. So I'm making noise because of that.
That's simple thing.
You can see fire coming. We saw wire melting. Smoke is coming out.
Was Austin that had to use Felix? No, it was Felix that had to use
the extinguisher.
Felix.
Yeah, I still remember when we were in Taraba office. It was a Saturday. We invited some CSOs, some government officials and stuff like that in our small meeting room like this. We are doing small training for them. You understand? Then what happens next? The meter is just, as you know, the way we put our meter, once you open this door, the meter is just there. Fire started at that.
And that's the only exit.
That's the only exit.
Wow.
And that's the day I know. So big man no dey for the life. Our offices are this way. We are running into the offices that doesn't have any escape route. People are running into this way. I knew there's a small hole in the toilet. As I ran into the toilet to see if I can use it, my still is already there. It was so, today we are talking about it and we are laughing. It was very serious. And what I didn't know what, because of the panic, we can run out from there, the thing won't harm us much, you understand? But nobody tried to, even because the smoke is already there, until the gate men now have to pick fire extinguisher and come and go into the fire. Now big men and small men, everybody started coming out and started laughing. we were not laughing at our friends too.
But it's constant exposure to, maybe these days are always on phones, or we are burning for laptops. So normally the spiral cord zone, this place is supposed to be a bit straight and bend. But when we keep exposing it bends. And they showed, I think it was a documentary, they showed what the normal one looks like and what the one that has been affected by this constant exposure looks like, and what it causes even to the spinal cord down. And they even talked about management of drivers
that sit for long.
Yes, so when I heard it, I came back to the office the next day. I was sitting like this. I asked myself, how can I because it was, because I always towards the front working. And I think maybe you need to also research more as that person and also provide us with guidance on that, and then we can talk to doctors, because some of us might begin to have it there.
Especially senior colleagues, you need to watch out.
So to Mariam, thanks. So when we were talking, I just remember that technique issue. I thank God I remember the name, because I was thinking if it was the right name. And then secondly too, for our homes, let us always learn to pull out our sockets. We take it for granted. I tell my family, you finish iron and just off it. I said, putting it off doesn't solve. I will not see when you off something and there's still current passing through.
Yeah, that's happened in my house. Start bringing us.
So when you finish iron or anything you're doing, what does it take to just pull up the socket from the wall and drop it and go your way? And when next you come, you plug it back when you want to use it.
You brought out so many points. I just had this ideology that maybe it was just going to be about health, safety, the do's and the don'ts. But when I came and saw, you brought out so many things out of this. Is that
practical?
Yeah, practical points. You brought out a lot of things out of this topic. And also, like I was telling Chris, he was talking about when you threw plug off. That was last week. I was charging my phone. Then I came out to the parlor. I realized that my son has unplugged the phone and he put the cord in his mouth.
Yeah, it does.
It's charging himself.
It's charging. No, if it's this laptop or the other one,
phone charger.
That one.
I screamed, collected the thing, shouted, spanked him and everything. I was like, okay, thank God for protection. And even sometimes, like you mentioned, sometimes you just think these things are off, but currents actually pass through them.
Sure.
So one of the extensions in my house was off. I was just trying to put my charger so I can plug my phone. The next thing, the thing just dragged me. Oh my God! What is happening here? So we really have to be careful, especially with all these electricities in our houses, with our gases too. it's really not advisable to put your gas cylinder in your kitchen, because I've seen places where people still put, and I tell them, if you see what this thing does to people and their houses and even the human beings not survive, you have to make sure that you ensure that these gas cylinders, you keep them outside, not inside the kitchen. What if a fire happens? The thing just explodes all over the house. And also, like Era was mentioning about, sometimes you have electrical faults. I keep feeling like, okay, maybe I service more electrical thing. Let me keep fixing it. It's actually wrong. I remember one time in our house in Aba, I think it's called cut out a bit. We had issue. We just been managing it. We managing the thing until one afternoon, the next thing, fire everywhere. I know the thing about fire is that once you see that fire, there's this confusion that comes in. You don't even know what to do. In fact, my mom wanted to carry water. I was like, hey. And in the midst of confusion, she just carried water just to pour. And I didn't think she poured water there. It would have been a different story. So in the midst of that confusion, it's always, you really have to try as much as possible to even avoid the situation. And in an event where it happens, try and stay calm. Because if not, when you just begin to react, and just because of what is happening, you might just do the wrong thing.
It's a good presentation. Thank you for delivering it. I just want to put a reminder, like what Chichi is saying. I, for one, it's a habit that I've formed every day. My gas cylinder is still outside, connected to inside. But one thing I always do again is every morning, the last thing I do, I turn off the knob before I leave the house. I always turn off the knob because these things are mechanical, like some of you that uses those type that automatically turns, if you turn the knob, they turn the light off. Those are the types I use. These are mechanical things. I don't know what may happen inside. The mechanical part might be faulty and be off. So that worst case, only the ones remaining in the pipe can burn and it burns away. Nothing comes out again. So I think that's one this thing. Then this one is also important for us as well. And I think to add again, like if you see the date where they refill, they write the date when it can stay. There is also because there is I've forgotten the name they call. There is one material inside. That material too has some kind of strength around how will I even put it, that it gets to a point whereby that thing, it's no longer strong enough to do the job. Okay, it's not just all about refilling it. There are times when you refill, you just need to throw the cylinder completely and get a new one. So we should take note of that. Then in terms of health, safety and environment, again, we should always be on a lookout of changes within our environment. Like I do that once in a while. What is it in my house that it's not there before? You understand? Around your environment. Always do that check once in a while to know a new antibody that has come into your environment. Is the antibody they call it, or all those, something strange that is not there before. Just look out for those things. It could also help. Probably like there's a situation whereby, okay, your environment is clean, but all of a sudden you start seeing something like growth of bee, something around. Bee started inhabiting such places. You start asking yourself, what is it I'm doing that is bringing this thing? So with that, you can make adjustment and you avoid such hazards.